Welcome to Pleasure Uprising. I'm Dr. Laura Juergens, intimacy coach, somatic practitioner, and your guide to getting out of your head and into your body, your desire, and your real capacity for connection. This show is for people who are done performing and ready to actually feel it. Let's go. Last week, I was on a call with a client. We're going to call him Kareem. He came to me carrying anxiety, ED, and a partner who was frustrated that he never initiated. This was our second session over Zoom, and we did an exercise that I absolutely love and do with all of my clients to tap into your own sexual energy in your body. And I do this with myself regularly throughout the week. And after about 10 minutes of this exercise, I had him open his eyes, and I could feel it even before he said anything. He had just completely shifted. And he said to me in this session, I can't believe I had this in me. This feels amazing. I want to be here all the time. So I know that feeling because I said almost the exact same thing the first time I found it. So today's episode, we're going to talk about what it actually feels like to come home to your body. It is not a how-to. It is a what's possible. And I want to talk to you specifically if you're someone who has been, learning, reading, listening, maybe doing some work, but hasn't really felt it yet, that deep sense of connection to your own sexual energy. And that feels like a weird term and you don't even know what that means and it sounds too woo, or it's just like, yeah, but I don't know what that is. Or you think it just means being kind of turned on. I want to talk to you if you don't feel yet like you know what that erotic home base is, that like being there where you could connect with really almost just like another human being from that place, and it would just be charged. I want to invite you to just stay here with me today and consider how this episode makes you feel and open up to the possibility that this is available to you. That's what I'm hoping for you. So let's just start what's going on with all of us that we feel so disconnected from our sexual energy in the first place, or that feels like a weird concept, or we don't know what that is. So a lot of people will just think that they are low desire. They'll talk about their sort of clinical symptoms that have been sort of out there in the like medical sphere. They'll say, I'm low libido or low desire, or I have ED, or I have a lot of anxiety, right? And sometimes people just, explain it really clearly saying, I'm stuck in my head. A lot of people will say that. And so Kareem, this client I worked with last week, he wasn't low desire specifically. He was really high anxiety. He definitely described himself as stuck in his head. And I want to say, I have about at least half of my practice right now is in the same situation of some flavor. So, one woman who came in saying that she was low libido, but on day one in my office, she was massively turned on within like 5 minutes during a really straightforward practice. What was the deal, right? It wasn't just that I'm amazingly sexy. It was that she needed, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? But it was that she needed grounded sexual energy from a partner with this like sort of slow burn, I've got you type energy. And I know how to do that. Her partner doesn't. Okay, it's no problem. He's learning. She's responding. She actually has higher libido than him, I'd say. And she was just separated from it. She'd just given up on it. I have so many clients who just aren't getting what they need to actually be in their own erotic energy, either because they are blocking it themselves, which is really, really common, almost universal, I would say, in my practice. And to be honest, in the world at large, I don't really feel much in the world of, I don't think many of us actually know these days how to actually be in our erotic energy in a way that's safe for other people. So either we're blocking it or we're like creepy. And that's really, really common. So I have so many clients who are just blocking it inadvertently. They have no idea that they're even blocking it. They have no idea that it's even there. And that's where I was. And so I'm going to describe that to you and why it happens. But the other thing is that sometimes people actually do have the experience of it and they don't know how to teach what they need to their partner. And so they've actually shut their own sexuality down because of repeated disappointments. And that's also really common. So I want to name this like broader pattern because people who come to me are not sexually broken. They're mostly just exiled from themselves. And sometimes we don't know how to, and if we're in connection with another person, we're in a relationship, not only can we be exiled from ourselves, but if our partner is exiled from themselves, then it's really hard for two people to connect, right? Because nobody's home to connect with. So what creates this exile, right? And this is very early, a lot of times in our lives, really early when we were, toddlers even, or sometimes even babies, through shame, religion, families that are just don't talk ever about bodies and sex and, everything is kind of gross, right? The general cultural message that our genitals and our sexual energy is either dangerous or embarrassing. And we learn very early to kind of go a little numb from the waist down. Not dramatically, just like a low grade shutoff that has become so normal that we stop noticing it. And it's the mind connection to the genitals and the pelvis is kind of blocked and we just don't know it. It often happens so early, we don't even remember. A lot of times kids, toddlers, 2 or 3 are playing with their bodies and they're told not to do that or not to do it in public. Or we get the general message that that part of us is dirty or bad. And for boys growing up socialized as male, as men, they get the message that their sexual energy could make them predatory and harmful. And so sometimes it will shut down because of that reason. They're trying to contain so much that they don't harm someone. For girls, we're told that our sexual energy makes us sluts who will be assaulted and therefore deserve it as punishment for our sluttiness. And all this happens without conscious thought most of the time. We're getting these messages so early on in our lives that we're not even registering them. They're just sort of like seeping in. It's almost like you grow up swimming in, a sea of genital and sexual shame. And so, of course, it just sticks to us, right? And we don't even notice that that's what we're swimming in. And the result winds up being that we live from the neck up. And even if we, connect with other parts of our body, say through meditation or guided meditation, they'll guide you down to your belly, maybe, but no farther, right? We live cut off from the energy in our pelvis and we think about sex from our brains instead of actually feeling it a lot of times. We're trying to manage it, perform it, avoid it, make it about the other person, all of this cognitive work, but we're rarely actually in our own bodies the whole time that we are actually with someone else. And even when we're with ourselves and just self-pleasure, a lot of times we're not even really present in our own bodies during that either. We're just trying to get to the release as fast as possible. And we don't get access to somebody teaching us another option. And so that's one of the things that I do in my practice. I do teach people another option, but I just want everybody to know that it makes total sense where we're starting. And that was where I was starting, right? I did not believe this really. I didn't even know it existed, this type of sexual connection with myself. And I just want to say, skepticism is reasonable and normal and actually healthy. And I was there. I was totally skeptical. I didn't necessarily think that this existed at all. And I heard about this sort of sexual energy place in my early training in my sex educator training, in my somatic sex coaching training, this idea that you could access your own sexual energy and let it fill you up and have it become a resource for you. I was skeptical. I wasn't resistant, I would say, because it sounded great. I wanted it, but I was skeptical that it A, existed, or B, that I could have it. So I was kind of in that show me space, right? Which I actually think is a very reasonable place. And if that's you, that is a great response. But what happened? My teacher demonstrated it on me. Now, she did this with just basic eye contact, nothing else. So first she showed me what it was like without her connected to her own sexual energy. We looked at each other. She looked at me. It was flat, right? There was nothing in my body. It was just like normal eye contact. Then she dropped into herself. She dropped into her sexual energy and she looked at me again. And I literally melted. My body just responded. I was like watching it. My brain was watching it. Like, what just happened to me? I was all of a sudden just super turned on from a look. No touch, no words, no performance, just her being really present with her own sexual energy. So I was like, what is this magic? And then immediately I questioned, right? Is this real? Am I just being a suggestible student? Right? But I actually suspected it was real because there was literally no way for me to be this turned on this fast, especially when I had been so skeptical. So it took me a few more tries to like really believe it. And it always worked. It just always did it for me. And with other people too, like other teachers, other students who were a little bit ahead of me and had done this before, right? Practicing with different people who were good at it and people who were bad at it. And actually people who hadn't learned yet, because I was a learner, I could feel that they're up in their heads and it didn't do it for me, right? So it was really clear to me. And then when I would check in with people, I would get that that was the story, right? So this is what happened. I learned through experience that this is real. And then there was this next step, right? Okay, maybe it's real, but can I do it? This was like the who me kind of part. And what happened was I was given the breathwork exercise that I teach people, this mind-pelvis connection exercise, to practice for a couple of weeks. I started feeling this sort of slow build of awareness when I was practicing it. And I just had to go on faith. I was like, okay, we're just going to practice this and see what happens. Nothing particularly dramatic happened for the first like a week or two. And I was wondering if I was doing it right. But I was feeling a little bit more awareness of my genitals from the inside of my body. And then in week 3 for me, and it's different for everybody, but I just had like a damn release. I got this sensation just like flooding me of warmth, of tingles, light, power, groundedness. I've had clients describe this as incredibly relaxing and energizing at the same time. And I think that's a great description. It's this sense of being fully in my entire body and having access to this pool of energy that I didn't know I had. And it feels very deeply authentic and deeply mine. So it didn't feel like something external to manage, but it felt like a source of power and connection, like real connection to myself. I wasn't trying to be sexy. I wasn't performing anything. I just felt like I was home. And so I want to say that, really brought, so my little science brain, I'm a biology professor at this point in time, right? When I'm learning all this stuff. And I'm like, what? Okay, what is this? And since then, I've done a big deep dive into trying to understand what this is, what we know about it. And I will say the science has not caught up to the experience. But what we know basically is sexual energy is just life force energy in the pelvis. It's the same energy that makes you feel alive, grounded, present, magnetic. It's not necessarily mystical, even though it kind of feels like it. And maybe that's what mystical really is. I don't know. But I do know that it's available to everyone. I have worked with a lot of people and everyone's been able to find it, sometimes at a different pace, depending on their personal history. But it's there. It's a birthright. It's a human energy that is just energy in your body. And for some reason, the energy in the pelvis just feels extra amazing and juicy and really lights us up. And we don't have the science for this yet, so it's best to just experience it, and it's more fun that way too. But there's a lot of sort of, neurobiology that we can think about your mind getting connected to your pelvis, about increased blood flow, about more neural connections, and about maybe relaxing some of the bracing that might be keeping us from actually having an experience of the full connection of our entire body being connected, especially when we've been mentally, subconsciously kind of repressing that energy. So maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know. Maybe it is mystical. Who cares? It feels great. So the ways that we're typically shutting it down, there's sort of two stages of shutdown. One I see with everyone, and one I typically see only, and in my training also was told you'll typically only see this with men. So the first is the shut off pattern. And that's, what I explained with Kareem, what I explained with myself, the sense of just living kind of from the neck up and even from the waist up, like not really feeling like your legs are there and your belly and up is there, but you don't really feel like you're living in your pelvis. There's like kind of almost like a door is closed. And we don't always notice until we open the door that the door was even there. So there's the shutdown that almost everybody has. One other pattern that happens predominantly for men, I've only ever seen it with men, I've not met any women who've actually had this, is a sense of it. Actually, the sexual energy is like leaking outward. And it feels like this kind of vague, creepy energy landing on women, typically. It's almost like feels like a childlike demand, or it can feel like actual, like predatory creepiness. And I think, it's what happens when the sexual energy is out, it's coming out, like you are allowing it out, but it doesn't have a container inside you. You're not holding it in. And women don't seem to do that, probably because we've been conditioned to not feel entitled to actually service from other people of our sexuality the way that boys and men have. We've been conditioned for the shut off, and men have been conditioned to expect women to service their sexual energy. And so it can kind of come out in this like leaky way. It's not contained. It can generally give off this sort of needy or creepy vibe. The solution, though, is the same for everyone, with a little added work for men of working on closing that leaky part off. And in my experience, in my practice, men love it when they do that because it actually fills them up and they feel like enough all of a sudden. They feel like this level of confidence and like, I've got this. And then all of a sudden, they're really magnetic too to their partners. So closing that leaky part off is like an extra little, we work a little harder on that with men too. So when you have this access to this energy in your pelvis, when you let it fill you up, it doesn't actually need anything from anyone else. It's not directed outward. It just is. It's like a being energy, not a doing energy. It lights you up. It fuels you. It grounds you. I actually had a client say, in one of her quotes when we were closing out our work together, and she was like, the first session I had with you, it felt like you gave me drugs over Zoom. Which I thought was really funny. But that's kind of how it felt to me when I first experienced it too. So I loved that. So what becomes possible when you do access that energy? So I would say there's like 4 key things. One of them is a type of confidence that's very different than how we think of confidence in modern society. We often think of confidence as this sort of performative thing for other people. But this is a type of confidence that doesn't actually need feeding. It's not puffed up. It's like rooted. So, my client Kareem had walked into that session anxious, uncertain, and he left not with confidence about a specific thing. He left connected to something that doesn't require reassurance. It doesn't require performance. It doesn't require masking of your real human vulnerability. It's this sort of kind of confidence that's just unshakable because it's human, it's real, it's embodied, and it's grounded. And that feels amazing. And that's why he said, I want to stay here, right? Not just the energy, but the way that it helps us feel just 100% okay. Quick break. If you are listening to this show, something in your intimate life may not be where you want it to be. And if you've been trying to think or talk your way through it and it's not quite working, that's not a you problem. That's just a method problem. I made a free guide to help called Get Out of Your Head, a starter guide to releasing the pressure, shame, and shoulds around intimacy. It has some reflection exercises that go deeper than anything you'll typically find in a freebie, and most people feel something shift after just the first one. So go grab it at laurajurgens.com/guide, and the link is in the show notes. So the second thing is flirting that actually lands. And this is not, clever lines. This is not knowing the exact right kind of compliment. This is presence. And this is what my teacher demonstrated on me with nothing but eye contact, and what I did for that client to turn her on in the first 5 minutes of our session when she thought she had low libido. It's not a party trick. It's physiology. Humans read nervous system states in each other constantly. We evolved to do that way before we even had spoken language. So when you're in your body, enjoying it, feeling grounded, feeling that unshakable sense of I'm okay here and I feel good. Other people can feel it, and it lands as delicious to other people. It lands as this person is really deeply present and I can relax in their presence. Okay, so the third thing that enables, and these all kind of flow from each other, right? That groundedness enables that really amazing flirting. And the third thing is the application to a partnership. That where I've literally had couples in my practice where this was the only tool they really needed. Because one partner's anxiety or disconnection with themselves was creating the entire libido mismatch because it was just the opposite of what their partner needed to feel turned on. So once they found this place in themselves, the dynamic just shifted completely. And it's not because they performed or did something different. It's because they were somewhere different. They were really deeply present. Their partner felt it, was immediately turned on. Wham, bam, problem solved. So the other thing that's possible, the fourth thing, is really like sex that's not a transaction. You get foreplay, you get connection, you get intensity, you get playfulness with power dynamics. All of it is available from that grounded place as expression of like a joyful, playful groundedness in who you are, not as a performance. There's no I have doing kind of checklists. What do I do? There's no anxiety about it. There's just like being, and how do we want to be together? So one of my clients, she said, one of her, like a quote from her, I was suddenly experiencing all I had ever wanted and more, and so quickly. I felt more empowered in my body than I have before. That's a person who has landed in her home base of erotic energy. That's what it feels like. So I want to say, I want to return to Kareem's words, right? He said, I can't believe I had this in me. And that's so important. He had it the whole time. I had it the whole time. I just didn't know. My teacher didn't give me that energy. She just showed me the door. And I actually don't think, I told Kareem, honestly, I don't think it's possible to be there all the time. At least I haven't found a way to be there all the time. If you can, amazing. More power to you. But the goal isn't that it's kind of a constant place. It's that it becomes a home base. It's somewhere that you know how to get to. It's a place you can return to nourish yourself and to connect with someone else on a really fundamentally human basis. And, I've had clients say, I'm finally out of my head, right? And really in my body. I had one guy, Mark, say, it's easier than I thought. What they're saying is, I had this in me all the time, and now I know how to get there. So I want to name that this is not a cognitive skill. You cannot think your way there, which is why all the reading in the world of all the great books out there about sex will not get you there. And why a couple weeks of a specific practice can, right? Because it's an embodied skill. It's knowing where this is and how to reach it in your body takes some time in your body. It's just like kind of a new sport, right? You can read about how to play volleyball for days, and that doesn't mean that when you go out onto the volleyball court, you're going to have any idea what the hell you're doing, right? You need to actually build skill and practice. So I do want to make a little note about workshops, because sometimes this type of work can be done. And I think this is because I'm just coming off of these 2 episodes where I talked to the wonderful, last episode, I talked to the wonderful cult journalist Anke Richter. And, we talked about red flags in workshop settings and charismatic facilitators and stuff like that. And a lot of times people are going to those kinds of workshops to try to find this place. They want this. And when those environments are not run by exceptionally well-trained ethical guides, if you do find this place there, you can walk away believing that the quote-unquote guru or the group even itself gave you that experience because you experienced it there, and they didn't tell you that it wasn't them. It was yours. It was always yours. So I want to tell you, and make sure to tell you, that once you know how to find this in yourself, it was always yours. You can access it for free forever, and no one can ever take it back from you. And you do not need a group or a guru. You might need a teacher to show you the door, but they should be very clear that this is yours and it doesn't depend on you continuing to pay them or to go to any of their events. Okay, so just, let's go back to that moment with Kareem, and me even. Neither of us believed this was available to us. We'd never experienced it before. And yet we did. We found it anyway. And I know that you can too. I know that everyone can. And once you know the way, you can always land back there at your home base. So if you felt something in this episode, and if it kind of, maybe there was something in your body saying, oh, maybe I don't know what that is, but I might like to try that. I might want that. I want to find that for me, right? If you want help claiming it, I'm here. It's my absolute joy to help people find it. And if you find it elsewhere, wonderful. I'm so excited for you. There's definitely other teachers out there and other ways to do it. Just know it's yours. It's your birthright. And it feels really good to come home to your own body. That's the place we're going when we want to get out of our heads. We need to find our own erotic energy, our own life force energy in our bodies and connect to it. And no one can ever take it away. All right, my dears, I hope this was illuminating, and I'll see you next week. Hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this show, I want to invite you to check out one of my favorite things that I've ever created. It's a free guide called Get Out of Your Head, a starter guide to releasing the pressure, shame, and shoulds around intimacy. It has 4 reflection exercises that go deeper than anything you'll find in a typical freebie, and most people feel a shift just after part 1. So go grab it at laurajurgens.com/guide. The link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to find out what your specific path looks like, I'd love to talk to you. Booking info is also in the show notes, and I will see you here next week.